I'm going to start the podcast this evening or morning, wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening, with an apology. I'm sorry if I may have offended you, wronged you, made fun of one of your favorite heroes, because I was wrong. And I'm big enough to admit when I'm wrong. Azalea is f***ing amazing and a ton of fun to play right now. Outcast Haven podcast starts now. We kind of memed her for a while there, and then she ends up hitting a 10th in Card Merchant out of over 100 people. So I throw one together. Blake's throwing one together. Well, Blake, you've played her a ton. Man, she's a ton of fun to play and can consistently hit for 10 to 12 damage, sometimes in one swing, sometimes in multiple swings. And I think she could shock some people with the right piloting. She could top 8 in an event, especially in the road to Nats, with the smaller events. I think somebody could squeak one out with her. I'll be curious to see, especially when these start. When these roads and Nats start with all the results that are going to be coming in and all the deck lists that are going to start popping out, it'll be really interesting how that impacts the callings.
Yeah. She's interesting too, because what she does is puts that weird threshold number together really well. She consistently puts 4s and 5s. So on her big turns, she does 10 or 11. And on her small turns or her double attack turns, it's always like 4s and 5s. So they have that weird hit threshold where if they have an effect, she forces people to consider their blocks. And even when she doesn't, you kind of just, they want a 1-card block it. That's fine. I'll just eep one, or you kind of just squeak 1 or 2 through consistently on your off turns. And then on your big turns, you just go 11 red in the ledger. So if you don't block it all, you only get 1 action anyway. So block wisely.
Yeah. I've also noticed that. So I love Jason. Like when you play Seek Horizon, that card flows so well in that deck. Like it's tertiary damage, but it just sets up. It basically is a cross wrap on a stick. Not that cross wrap isn't on a stick already, anyways. But like you basically get to set up the top of your deck, and then it's like 3 damage. What's the red? Is the red 3 or 4? Is it 3, 2, 1?
So it's 4. It's 4, 3, 4, 3, 2.
So like you're hit with that, being able to stack your deck, and then like because you're running the red liner,
and
right?
It's free.
So it's free. I think it just feels really good in the deck. But her arrows particularly hurt the new heroes a lot, which is which I think is part of what makes her really fun in this meta, is like just throwing a sleep dart at a Levia or at a chain and being like, all right, well, have to block this. And also Snapdragon and Command and Conquer, just for good measure. Like, or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, I think the scariest thing about her is thinking about a hero like, because Chain is annoying. I will say that Chain is more annoying than anything. It can be a little annoying because it makes you kind of pilot the deck funky, because if you get hit with something like a Sleep Dart, you lose the free go again on 1 card. I think the heroes that it's going to eat alive are specifically, I think it could potentially just kill Levia, because in that mid to late game, if you look at their drop and you happen upon a Sleep Dart and, oh, hey, by the way, I have a Sleep Dart in my arsenal or a Sleep Dart on top of my deck, and look at that, I found a Razor. Now Levi is in a weird spot where if they don't have a defense reaction, you could potentially go, hey, here's an extra 3 from Razor that you can't block. Now my Sleep Dart hit, and oh, by the way, you're going to take 6 because you're not going to be able to shut off your Blood Debt. So you can do, it's so weird. Like, it puts her in such a weird spot that, what do you do,
How is Sleep Dart worded? Just out of curiosity. I just haven't I didn't think about this till now, because we're fresh into the testing into Azalea, because Jason's but what is the wording on Sleep Dart?
If it hits, they lose all hero card effects and activated abilities until the end of their turn.
until the end of their turn. Does until end of turn trigger before end of turn effects?
So here
That would-
here would be my
that-
thing though, is how is Leviah worded?
Because it says at the end of your turn, right?
Until the end
Right.
of their next turn.
No, I know, but I'm asking. This is I actually remember seeing this in the rules. So rules break. I'll edit this out. All right, so we talked about it. Basically, Sleep Dart would kill Leviah because it shuts off her text box and it basically blanks her text box. So when it's looking for 6 attacks to go in, they're not going in. Is what I think we agreed on, right? So during the turn, doesn't matter if it.
I think
that
so.
doesn't trigger till end phase, regardless of which one goes first. The ending of the Sleep Dart or the beginning of Blood Debt. So disregarding that, but Jason, back to you. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it brings the great equalizer of the meta, which is currently Bravo, because he's the one that doesn't care about her hit effects. So if if it's 10 and it has a hit effect and he's doing one action, maybe he blocks 6 to 9 of it with cards and swings back at 4, and Bravo's happy with that. Because Azalea is going to take the 4, hope to draw 4 cards that can do something, and then Bravo's just going to block out, or he'll take that to set up for a big, huge. So he's always going to be the great equalizer in the current meta. And it's kind of controlling all the decks. At least that's how I feel right now.
Yeah, I think Bravo's interesting because his dominate effect, I think, at least from my perspective, good player, someone like Kale, who has piloted Bravo for a long time, it's interesting to watch him pilot it because a lot of people try to abuse the dominate effect. But if there's anything I've learned from watching Kale play Bravo, it's the fact that that's a way that you finish games or push necessary effects through. So into Ninja or Chain, you try to abuse that for a Spinal Crush that pummels or something. Whereas sometimes what you're trying to do is get them to expend their hand to not allow a bunch of damage through or to protect against a pummel. So you don't want to dominate it because you're not going to pummel it anyway, but you want them to consider the pummel. So they basically do the math on, okay, red pummel is 4. This is coming for 9. I block 10. So if I take damage, I discard no cards anyway. Right. And I don't take the crush effect. It's like all of those things. But Bravo is able to kind of manipulate the game in a way that other heroes don't. And he has some hard and fast answers because I think that you're going to see a lot of Chain, and his ability to potentially just kill Go again altogether requires Chain players to really just stack and sit on a time snap or 2 all game. Whereas in some matchups, as somebody who has been playing a ton and testing a ton of Chain, as soon as it's beneficial to me to use the time snap to go wide to push a bunch of damage and get things through, I'll use the time snap. I don't always save it. Against Bravo, I can't really do that because on the turn he potentially pummels a Spinal Crush and takes away my Go again. I absolutely unequivocally have to have 2 time snaps out to just not die to Blood Debt or eat 6 Blood Debt. So he's a weird matchup. He's a weird matchup.
I would consider testing 9 Seek Horizons in Azalea just to get the dominate effect off almost every turn, because Azalea doesn't want you to block, or she wants you to block with 1 card. Blocking with 1 card with Azalea is about perfect because you're going to push through a high amount of damage and then you're racing. So the first Seek Horizon, whatever the damage is, doesn't matter. It's the cards you're putting on top. And if you can Nimblism or take aim into that next dominated effect card, which is going to be usually a 7 to 8 attack, you're going to be close to double digits every time. So I would really consider 9 Seek Horizons, just because with Memorial Ground, yeah, you bring it back, but you're also putting a 0 block that's not doing any damage. So you take a card out of your graveyard, but Seek Horizons just inherently better. It's doing an attack. You know what's going on top with out of your hand. You're getting the dominate effect. It's a good card.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of decks are trying to accomplish now, is with Chain becoming really prevalent in terms of what you're going to see. I think it's really necessary for decks to consider that they kind of have to be able to go at least 2 wide. Even Bravo, you look at Bravo decks, and all of a sudden Bravo is trying to attack twice a turn on a lot of turns, whether that's with Outmuscle or Rouse the Ancients. It's all of a sudden this game of, it's interesting because there's always been decks that just wanted to go tall with one big attack. The problem is the chains of the world absorb it and just say, that's fine, I'll take 10, I don't care, because I can go 6 attacks wide and put 15 back at you. So you either take 15 or you give me your hand. So you're trading damage for damage. And now even Prism, I think we're seeing that it seems like, and maybe Dane has a different opinion because he's played a lot of Prism, but it feels like in a lot of ways, Prism in a lot of matchups is even saying, you know what, I'm just going to swing 2 times big, maybe even 3. And it's become this game now where currently the meta almost feels like it's who can swing more and swing bigger and then time their block turn or their big attack turn at the perfect moment.
Yeah, I mean, my deck is slowly turned into far less auras, and now I'm running Zealous Beltings, Rouse the Ancients, and Cataclysmic or Celestial Cataclysm, just because like that go wide, like a turn where I can go Celestial Cataclysm into a, like if I'm afraid of like getting popped, like a Cataclysm into a Zealous Belting into a Command and Conquer, like feels great. Like just being able to put wide pressure on consistently is, I think that it is one of the, because I think what we're finding is in the game in general, people are getting how to block. They're understanding like the give and take aspect of a turn, right? So as you get into like those higher, like the later rounds or the bigger tournaments, you're seeing people that are weighing what they're keeping versus what they're guessing you're going to put out to them. And I think that what people are finding in their testing or just playing right now is that they are able to pull quick ones on people by going wider than expected. And people are like, okay, I'm going to block this first attack. I'm going to block with these 2 cards because of the hit effect, whatever, you know, I don't want them to also make a Spectral Shield and swing at me with that and have defense. So whatever. So I'm going to block the Herald of Protection. And then all of a sudden, instead of just hitting them with one more Herald that they're going to block half of or whatever, like I'm going Zealous Belting, Command and Conquer, or Rouse the Ancients from Arsenal into a Celestial Cataclysm. Like it's just like you're making their math bad. You're making them make mistakes on what they were blocking because you're going wider than expected. And I think that a lot of decks are doing that now.
Yeah, I mean that's what Chain is trying to do, is just go wider than you can block. And I think that's what a lot of decks are kind of trying to accomplish right now, is they can either go too wide, but those 2 attacks are too tall to both be blocked out, or they're trying to go too wide to have enough cards to block, like Chain is, or Ninja or something, where it's like, if you want to block, that's fine, but I'm gonna get 2 or 3 or 4 damage through while taking 2 or 3 cards from you. So your card is your turn is minimized, and it comes back to me with more cards, and I'm controlling the tempo. Or they're trying to Bravo or Prism you, where they're saying, I can't go 4 wide necessarily unless you double erudition them, which again is like, oh, I hit the nuts, cool, that sounds great, and I just kind of gain tempo there. But they're trying to say, I'm going to go 6 to 8 twice. And mathematically, you're going to poke through damage, or they're going to give you most of their hand on the bad hit effect, and then take 3 or 4 on the non-hit effect. In which case, you're kind of happy about it. Like that feels like the fair trade. You're getting the same value that Chain is without having to play 6 cards a turn. You're playing 2 cards. Chain is playing 6. You're both accomplishing the same thing, 4 damage over the long haul.
I mean, now to that point, you've got Azalea that's able to throw 4 at you first, knowing that she's got a hit effect coming. It's like, okay, she took a card from hand with Seek Horizon, put it on top of the deck. What's this hit effect going to be? And it's 4 damage coming in first. Okay, well, do I take the risk and block some of this, or do I just eat 4? Am I eating 4 every time they have a Seek Horizon in hand, or 3, or 2? You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's just additional damage that Azalea gets to put out effectively for free.
Yeah.
And it sets them up. So it's like, something else is coming at you. Or even if, what if they don't have anything else and they just like, they top deck the take aim or something because they know they're going to draw into it and just totally psych you out and like, okay, well, thanks for taking 4 damage.
Yeah.
I'll throw
Seek Horizon.
piddly area at you. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it's good.
Seek Horizon into nothing. Pass turn.
Or as I call it, the blind azalea, the Seek Horizon into
Yeah.
the blind azalea.
It's blind.
Yeah, I will say what you said, Blake, about the double when people hit the nuts. I think that's what's going to take your top player is being able to weather the other person getting the absolute nuts draw and learning how to block that properly. Thinking worst case scenario, how do I block and get out of this and still win the game? So I think that's what's going to take it is mapping out those types of turns to slowly get back, because you don't need, I think that's a big thing, is if you take a bad turn, you feel like you have to get back in the game that next turn, and you can take 2 or 3 turns to get back into the game slowly to regain tempo. It's not like blitz if you don't regain tempo that next turn, you just scoop. That was a good game. All right, I'm out. I think you have time in CC to block out and try to find your hand before you take another big damage swing, so you can really push hard again.
Yeah, I changed a prime example of a deck like that where in blitz it just feels bad because if you whiff on one turn of your shackles, you basically might as well scoop at that point, because missing one turn of damage means that you're effectively have lost tempo in the game. So the RNG of chain is really punishing in blitz, but in constructed, you can miss a turn and you just go, okay, cool. It's fine. I have 2 blues. I have a card I can arsenal. I'll do a couple things. I'll try to get one card out of their hand. I'll arsenal this card, and then anything I draw, I'm basically willing to block with unless it's something insane. I'll keep these 2 blues, and then next turn I'll hit and I'll get the tempo that turn, because it allows that little bit of leeway that blitz is really unforgiving in. And also, let's be honest, one of the things that I think makes chain significantly better in constructed is I've almost never even come close to decking out in constructed. But every game I play of chain and blitz, I'm paranoid about the fact that if turn 4 I haven't done enough damage, I might as well scoop, because good players will just start to block me. They'll stop. They won't even bother trying to attack me anymore because they know my deck is going to run out here in 2 turns. So just don't even attack. You don't even have to attack a chain player. If you're in double digits on turn 4, just block out, because you probably win. Pro tip.
Yeah, I think we need to play Katsu, because I've seen Katsu deck out chain and CC.
I mean, if they're playing Turtle Katsu, totally. But
yeah,
that's
we just
also,
haven't played that.
think,
But
yeah, I think that's also like a player thing where you have to be aware. If from the beginning, if Katsu is playing Turtle and they want to block with their whole hand, then you have to be willing as the chain player to be super patient.
Yep.
And pitch every single seeds. Don't make shackles. Pitch for rune chance and do a lot of arcane damage, or try to set up for a turn where you can deal like 6 arcane damage, rip their hand, and actually get off. That's where I think you do have to you do have to really like rely on setting up an eclipse turn, because you're going to need that 6 and to force them to swing into the token.
I think that's the great part about going into this meta and going into Road to Nationals and then eventually calling season, is that when you play these decks, now there, with the exception of a few, there is multiple ways that they can play that deck. So when you go into sideboard, either you need to have good information from what's happened already in the tournament, which is the reason why I get up and walk around after a tournament and see what everybody's playing, because you kind of want to get a little preview of what's happening. But Dane, you could sit down with your Prism build, and I could be a chain player and think, okay, he's going to go heavy auras into me. I'm going to run my Aether Weave, and I'm going to sideboard, make sure I have all my time snaps in. Maybe I'm going to throw time skippers in because I think you're coming at aura. And next thing you know, you have your aggro build. And I'm like, well, I just missed sideboard that whole match. And now it's going to be a lot harder for me to keep tempo.
I don't know if it's the people that we've been playing or the decks we've been testing, but I still think that there's probably something to auras. I don't want to totally write them off, but it's too slow into so many decks that I almost don't even feel good running the 80 cards that lets me split what I run. I almost just prefer to like not even like I run Merciful Retributions and Genesis. Just because Merciful Retribution doesn't feel terrible in the attack build either, because every time you pop an attack, you're taking an arcane. So, I mean, there's that, but
yeah,
I don't know. Just aggro,
I suppose it's also I think it's also worth keeping in mind that one of the things we haven't seen in this game a lot is typically in this game it's been figuring out the most efficient builds of decks more than anything, and the typical TCG strategy or ebb and flow of metas is aggro always wins early. That's just a reality of every game that's a TCG or a CCG, because aggro typically is the easiest to figure out. It takes the least amount of time to optimize an aggro deck versus a control deck, because a control deck you need a lot of meta information so that you can sideboard correctly and build your full deck correctly, and also make sure the deck is efficient into the aggro decks, the mid-range decks, and the other control decks. So it takes time to hash out control decks to know your ratios and your curve and everything. Whereas aggro decks typically just go, do I have enough resources to pay for my attacks? Yes or no? That's basically your big question. So I'm curious if an aura build or a more block heavy arc, once the meta slows down a little bit, will there be a place for a chain deck that builds rune chants and plays a lot of these rune chant things? Because they could all of a sudden they could catch you off guard where you're playing chain, you're like, yeah, I just play one arcane barrier, and next thing you know they're playing a bunch of like vexing malice, and you're like, oh, that's a lot of twos, like I'm bleeding a lot of damage for nothing. And then they're building up a bunch of rune chants, and all of a sudden it's 15 rune chants instead of the normal chain 1 or 2. And you're like, oh my God, like this, because even with a little bit of like read the runes or making multiple rune chants from things, you see people making 2, like from a Spellblade Assault,
I don't know how chain would build that many rune chants. Like, I mean, I know you're just using an example, but it's like chain not attack. Cause like the only way that Viscera even got to 15 is not attacking turns in a row.
Right.
Like you're not going to build that many. But
you're not gonna, it's more just like if people run multiple read the runes or something weird into like 6 or 8.
Aren't you running like 3 red read the runes?
That's the secret spice, man. No, I've been testing 3 read the runes. Yeah, I've played it on stream. I played read the runes on stream. So no, I think it's spicy. I think like 3 read the runes is spicy, because I will say, you made a rune chant last turn, read the runes with low go again action. All of a sudden, you're like, hey, here's 4 rune chants. It's weird to block, but I don't know, like some spicy control build.
I love that. I love that because it's just like I'll make a shackle, read the runes into my Nebula Blade for another 4, which will also make another rune chant. Like I have nothing to do this turn. I'm just gonna make a shackle. Just do that. I need 1 card.
It's
or
good.
2 cards for it. Yeah,
people hate it. People hate seeing it.
Dude, because I'll be honest. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the card that I hate to see the most playing in D Blake. Do you know what it is? I think I've told you actually. The card that I hate to see you drop in chain.
What's that?
Red Mountain Disguise. It's so cool.
Oh,
like
I
have to block this attack no matter what it is, because I cannot give him 3 free damage. That's so dumb.
Yeah. Red Mauvrion is it's my favorite to pair with like 1 and 2 attacks, because it's a guaranteed block. People will not let 1 or 2 damage hit if you threaten 3 rune chants on the back of it.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to bring up, Dane, that we had our last little blitz tournament for June, because we're moving to CC in our local stores. Pretty much all of them are moving to CC for the remainder of the of the month as we go into Road to Nats. And Dane pulls off the 4-0 with good old Benji. Mr.
Chris
Benji.
Rex.
The last hurrah for the Benjmeister.
I will say, and I posted this, we had, I think my memory can do this. So we had a Benji, I was running Kano, 2 chains, a Katsu, a Viserai that went 3-1, which was pretty cool, an Azalea, and Benji, Dory. So we had only two chains, otherwise everybody else was different heroes. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to end Blitz on something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's done, and we're on to figuring out what I want to run now for Road to Nat and for the calling. It's tough because it's right now I'm between Bravo and Jane, and I'm gonna play with Azalea. I don't think she's gonna make the cut, but I'm not gonna give up hope on her because she's a lot of fun, and I think there's a build out there that would shock some people, and they'll struggle to handle her. So that's where I'm at. I don't know what I'd pick right now. I'd struggle picking right now.
She'll make the cut after if you get your invite at the first one. If you earn an invite at the first Road to Nats,
then I'm for sure. Yes, 100%. If I pull out, and I think the first one, it's hard not going chain just because he's so aggressive. But it's just going to be Mirror City, and I don't know if I want to do Mirror City. So that might sway me to Bravo. But yeah, if I get an invite in the first one, 100% Azalea will come out for the next one. 100%.
Are they doing the lockout? If you win a Road to Nats, you're not eligible to play in the other Road to Nats?
Oh, maybe they're not. Oh, maybe.
I don't know. That was literally just a thing that I heard that I was curious.
That might be a case. If that's the case, I'm going to have to make an alias.
Because they announced that they're not doing the hand down invites, right?
Yeah.
So like, I mean, that would suck to just have like the Kent brothers go and just lock like everybody out, or us. I just don't want to be too pat on the backy, but like just go to locals and just like lock everybody out and drive around the upper Midwest and lock people out. It's like, hey.
Well, I mean, I know like they said that in Dragon Ball, they did like a no hand-me-down regionals for some of them, but then guys were put in weird spots where they were basically scooping in the last round to give the spot to somebody else because it wasn't a hand-me-down, which then gets weird because like the scoop rules in this game are really funky about not giving player stuff. So I feel like if you don't let people scoop and you don't have hand-me-downs, that puts people in a really weird spot if you don't lock them out.
Yeah, people be on like the final table, like Derek Zoolander, like Judge, I think I have the black lung. Pull me out.
Yeah, like
I can't finish my game.
Then you have to do one of those weird things where you're like, hey, let's go over here and talk for a second. I would like the first place prizing, but I would like you to get the invite. So how do we work this out? I'm not going to say we should do anything or that I will lose. I'm just saying that if I lose, it might not be on purpose. It might be on purpose. I might accidentally lose this round. Like it just puts people in a weird spot where you like start getting things get sketchy,
Well, I'm not going to say I saw sketchy stuff, but I did see a certain group scoop to siblings and other people in their group in major events, which I did not like. And it is it was weird. It was weird. It was like,
it's a weird feeling.
I don't like scooping. I like flesh and blood scoop rule. Like you scoop, you're done for the tournament. You're out.
Unless
you know what I mean?
Right. If I'm rage scooping, then I'll do it. I'll allow it.
Right, but I guess
Unless
I guess my mentality,
loss. But I'm just gonna make an alias. I'm gonna go as Asen Tahole, and I'm gonna play Azalea. Did you get that one? Asen the hole. Asen Tahole. Come on. Stay with me here. Dane, don't shake your head.
I'll be honest, amazing. I don't get it after you explained it, so I'm fine. Just
Azalea Ace in the Hole. It's literally her name. Her name is Ace in the Hole.
He's not going to
It
give you
is
the
her
satisfaction
name.
of acknowledging it. He's not going to
Tahole.
acknowledge it. Just yeah.
Asen Tahole. It sounds like a
Yeah.
Spanish name.
Well, we don't know that she's
Ship-
not. She looks Spanish. She could be a Spaniard. So does Cav Dane. They probably are Spaniards.
She's Spanish. I'm from Portland. Sorry, New Girl reference. If anybody gets it, I don't
Yeah.
know.
is that when he's asking?
They're at his dad's funeral. They go back for his dad's funeral, and she's like, "Is she Spanish, Nick? Is she Spanish?" She's like, "I'm from Portland, land of books."
That's right. I thought you were talking about CC. I'm doing like
all your fab and New Girl references.
I forget things like, hey, my wife asked me to grab something from the store, but I remember random New Girl references and quotes from the show. So I have priorities.
Is it a Schmidt quote? Because I can pretty much rattle any of them off if you need me to.
Schmidt is one of the greatest characters in television history. I said it.
I do want to give a quick PSA. With all the road to Nats and callings, people are gonna be road tripping, right? And when you're road tripping, that sounds like you're doing drugs while you're doing it, but maybe you are. I don't know.
Road tripping.
You listen to podcasts, and you listen to ours, so you probably aren't gonna. You've already listened to it, so you're not gonna put it on again. So I just did a road trip down to Kansas City for a little lacrosse tournament. So I'm like, I want a good serial killer podcast.
Ooh.
Left it up to my wife to find it, right? Get us a good one that we can listen to. So we start it, and we get about 3 hours in, and she got one that was not completed yet. So the whole point of the podcast was to get a series that was done. So by the time we got Kansas City, we had completion. Because today she comes in, oh, the next one is out. I'm like, that's great. That's a week later from when we were, driving down the road and wanted to listen to that.
That's funny.
So that's a public service announcement. Make sure it's a complete. If you want to do that, you're going on a 5-10 hour drive, get the full serial killer podcast that's completed. So you have completion by the time you get to your drive, your destination.
A good one. My favorite murder. It's a couple comedians who go through and they don't make light of the murders, but they pitch it in like an entertaining way. And they go through and talk. So it sounds like a bit of dichotomy there, but it's really good.
I just like the clarification that they don't make fun of the murders.
It's really sad they acknowledge it, but also they keep it lighthearted, so you don't want to off yourself after you're done listening to 10 hours of murder. So it's good.
It's interesting stuff.
My favorite.
But anyway,
that'd be one way to end a podcast. Murder.
Back to road tripping and flying places. So I have booked. Well, both of us have booked. Me and Blake have booked for Vegas. We're ready to go for Vegas. I think my wife just bought plane tickets because the whole family's going down to Orlando. So Orlando is now booked as well. Just need a place to stay. So I got two callings on the docket and maybe a Cincy road trip. It's only 10 hours. That's not a bad road trip. So that one's up. That one can be last minute, but 2 on the docket. Where are you guys at right now officially?
Vegas for sure. And then we're sorting out the details to try and make Orlando a family trip as well.
Nice. I am not doing Vegas because that is like the week after I get back from my honeymoon. So we're going to go ahead and just chill off that one, unfortunately. But we'll be road tripping to Cincinnati with Chelsea because that's her birthday week. And she very graciously said that we could do that for her birthday. So we're going to road trip down a couple days early, make it a whole trip. So that'll be fun. And if you guys end up road tripping, sorry, it's not going to be with me. But Orlando, I've also signed up for. We haven't booked anything yet. We need to probably book that soon. But let me know where you're staying, because I'm assuming with it being nationals, like you guys are both going to Orlando, so we can set up, maybe see where you guys are staying at, and do some adult Disney after hours. I've always wanted to do that, dude. I've always wanted to do like the adult Disney. That seems like it'd be fun because they've got like the whole. Like after dark, they do like the fireworks, and then it's like, all right, go put your kids to bed and come out and get hammered and walk around.
People just do that while their kids are with them. So I know you're new to parenthood, Dane, but so as a
People
parent of
definitely
16
drink.
players,
Yeah.
you just get drunk with your kid there. I don't know about this whole put your kid to bed first. I mean, especially now he's 16. He can
Yeah.
drive me, he
Let's
picks us
say,
up
yeah.
from a damn bar if we need to go out for a booze. So I mean,
Yep.
it's a new world now. Okay, they've seen it
Jason-
all. They got TikTok. They're fine.
They've got
Yeah.
TikTok. They know people get drunk. People have sex and they die. They kill each other. Okay, that's what happens in life. A quick Outcast Haven PSA. 16 years old with a license. That's when kids should be driving you home from the bar.
Yes, that's when they can come and pick your
Yep.
drunk ass up.
Yep,
16 with a license.
We only advise legal bar runs picking up drunk parents. They got to be legal. That's all we advise here. We are a responsible podcast.
Very responsible. So yeah, so Disney's definitely going to happen because, I mean, don't tell anybody this because I don't want it to book up. So let's keep this between us, you know. But Mason's every day going on to trying to set an appointment to build a lightsaber because you have to set an appointment, but it hasn't scheduled that far out. So on spring break, we were going to go to Disney, but couldn't get an appointment scheduled. So every day he's on his phone. I'm building a lightsaber. Just got to get the day down. So
yeah.
Are those lightsabers cool? Because I've looked at pictures of them and they look kind of cheeky. They look like a better version of like the Walmart extendo saber.
If you don't, I mean, if you're a big fan of full metal lightsabers, I guess you'd like them. They look amazing.
They're metal.
Watch a video on it. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All
You
right.
get to pick a kyber crystal. Like you get to
I know
you
that,
get to
but it
get
looked
your own
like
kyber. I mean, that's it. I just need a kyber crystal to call to me. That's all I need in life.
I'm gonna spend like the $250, $300 or whatever it is on a lightsaber.
Just give me the experience of a kyber crystal calling to me. It's all I want in life. Like,
Mason's on yellow right now for Kyber Crystal. That's what he's on, which is a pretty sweet color.
Mason Skywalker. Is that what he's just gonna give himself the last name Skywalker?
He might. I don't know. Everybody in the universe
Mason.
is, you know.
That's
Mason
a
who?
Ray. That's a Ray.
you got to look
Palpatine
off to the
reference.
side. Mason
Yes.
Skywalker.
Yes. But yeah, I'm excited. And the other nice thing is 16-year-old has a job. I don't even have to pay for the $250 lightsaber. He gets to pay for it himself. Even better.
Yeah.
So once again, more beer money while you're with your kid at Disney.
Yep.
That's another pro tip.
Get a job. I need a drink.
Yeah.
All right, we should get back on track. Probably.
Yeah.
We
Like
are on
speaking
track.
of
This
callings.
is what we're doing.
Yeah. Speaking of
Disney,
callings.
there's a calling down in Orlando, and we're back.
Wait, what? So with the callings coming, what do you guys? So I will say this is like probably a real PSA. I will say one of the things that we have as a podcast and as people who stream weekly, one of the challenges that we kind of run into is how much calling testing do we do versus how much meme deck playing do we do? Because obviously it's important for us to do well at a calling. So we don't want to go overboard with testing specifically our calling decks and some spicy tech like read the runes. Thanks a lot, Dane.
You were talking about.
I know.
You will find
I just
spicier tech. That's fine.
I'm just gonna blame you if people are like, oh, read the runes. I've seen that. Like, oh, son of a bitch, Dane.
What are people?
I'll just blame
do? Run.
I-
Still one null rune. Like,
They're like, I run 2 more blues in this deck because I know that you like to give more rune chance.
yeah,
Like,
you're
God, you
gonna-
got
you're
me.
fine.
No, I think that's like a real challenge, and I'm interested to see how many other people who put out content kind of balance that game, because like I want to do deck techs and I want people to be prepped for callings, but it is an interesting balance that you kind of run when you put out content to say, hey, here's some cool spice or here's some cool tech that we're talking about, or you do too much prediction, because we've seen that in other games, right, where the real spice is like showing up with a deck that you created under the cover of darkness, and all of a sudden it just like completely railroads people, and next thing you know you're like win, and people are like, I never saw this deck coming, and it's like, yes, because we are very spicy and we've kept it secret. I don't think that Fab has those decks per se, because Fab doesn't have those super,
I think it's got. So in Fab, how I imagine Fab right now is that there are lines that people that might not be like the most optimal line, but that are good to have in your back pocket into certain builds, and that people probably aren't expecting a deck to have main boarded per se. So like the null rune stuff or whatever, like whatever it is. But there are plays in this game, I think, more than other games, that you can side in and out of, like individual play options for your like any given turn, what you want to set up, versus other games where it's like if you sideboard stuff, you're typically losing a combo entirely, or which is, and in a lot of other games, like you are playing 3 to 5, maybe even 6, if you've got a really flexible deck, different like combinations or things that your play lines that you want to run. Whereas in Fab, it's just you're consistently doing like 1 of 10 things a turn, or 2 of 10 different things a turn, and being able to swap in and out and add like an 11th thing that people would not be expecting, or swapping out 2 of your 10 things, and all of a sudden you're running like this entirely different line they weren't expecting and misblock. Like I feel like that's more prevalent. So I do think that it exists in Fab, just to counter you a little bit.
That's fair. I think to that point too, the other thing is if somebody were to bring like a really optimized version of a deck people aren't expecting, because if people expect a lot of chain and a lot of, Prism and a lot of Dorinthia, they're going to prep their decks in a certain way that their sideboards are set for a certain thing. But if somebody brings some like really spicy, or even just a really super optimized Levia or a super optimized Viscerai that does something really oppressive faster than expected, I think people will be caught off guard. Even to Jason's point, earlier with Azalea, I think Azalea is in that weird spot where if people aren't prepped for it and haven't tested into it, they might get caught off guard. And next thing you know, you look down and realize you got hit with a sleep dart, you lost an important ability, you can't activate certain abilities, and you lose a turn when she took the tempo away from you, and then she just aggresses you too hard and you can't get back into the game. And next thing you know, you lost, and you're like, what just happened? I lost to the meme deck because I wasn't prepped for it. And it'll be interesting to see how many people do like the wide prep. Just all of a sudden, because everyone goes, Dash sucks, nobody's playing Dash, somebody brings Dash, and you sit down and realize, oh God, I have 0 tech to stop Pistol Dash. And it just mows you down. You get halfway through the game and you realize there are 3 induction chambers and 3 plasma purifiers out, and then you just die. Like that could happen, like that could totally happen.
I will say, I think in some of the decks, it's really important when you get on your final build. So like on my newest chain, I probably won't play on stream. Not that it's great, but you get to a point where there's 2 versions ago that are just fine to play on stream and for people to see and still get the general idea. But if you're running Rip Through Reality or things that give go again, meet and greets, consuming violations, that is really important knowledge that your opponent has and how to block. If Dane drops all his auras and goes to an aggro build, that's really important knowledge to have when somebody sits across from you. Like, oh, he plays this on stream all the time. He doesn't run auras anymore. I don't need to worry about time skippers and time snaps of going again. I don't have to crack those. I can sideboard all those out, which if they would have kept those in, hurt them and help you a ton, because they're no block cards. So I think there is an importance of still having good decks. That might have been a version or 2 ago, but I don't think anybody will play their top spice. But we're going to get deck lists from Road to Nats. And the biggest thing that I've seen, and I'm going to use Kale for an example. I mean, it's easy to use him. He's one of the best players, so I don't feel bad using him again. But if you look at his Bravo decks from event to event to event, they're not the same deck. He changes something in those decks every single time so that his opponent doesn't know what's coming. Is he going to do emerging dominance deck? Is it going to be a pummel deck? Is he going to try to pull off Towering Titan? There's tons of little things that you can do. Not Towering Titan. That's rarely does he do that, but there's other little things that you can do in that deck to do it differently. Sigil of Solus is in, Sigil of Solus is out. What type of build? Because if you think he's going to turtle and all of a sudden he goes more aggro on it by pummeling everything, that makes a huge difference. So
Yeah.
that will be an important factor, Blake. And
Mm-hmm.
it will be interesting to see the clone decks, because even if we were to top one of these events and get an invite, we'd still probably go to one or two of the other ones to still be easier to stream then, and could talk while the people play. It'd actually be kind of fun, to be honest with you. So it'd be nice to win one real quick and then be able to do that. That'd be amazing. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll be curious to see how many clone decks you see. So if somebody wins something right away, is that deck going to be cloned to the T? Are people going to put their own spice in? I stopped cloning decks just because they didn't fit my playstyle. So I rather you get a good base of 35 to 50 cards, and then you put your own spice of 20 cards on top of it for your playstyle. I think is the best way to do that.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. I think the most interesting thing will definitely be how the meta progresses from like through Road to Nat season, and how the decks kind of I know in every game I've ever played, and I know metas evolve, and I'm curious how much meta evolution we'll see throughout the Road to Nat season, because we'll have the data. All of a sudden we'll have all this data, and we'll start to kind of see the opportunity to really move around. But then at the same time, Road to Nats will probably lean a little more local, and it will definitely be more local meta dependent, because if you know you have a ton of Reinars or a ton of Bravos, you might be more hesitant to bring a Prism build, or you might have to alter your Prism build to combat those, whereas somebody who plays in a chain heavy meta or a Katsu heavy meta might not adjust their decks in the same way. And I think that keeping your local metas in the back of your mind when you're building those decks is important.
I mean, I would say this is the way I see it. The early road to Nats, those first weeks of August, I think is going to be chain heavy wins. They still take good piloting to do well, but sometimes the decks can just go off and consistently go off, and you can get a win with it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And then you'll see the middle of August where the wave of Katsus, because everybody's sick of seeing chains on top, and you'll see those high control decks come in. And then you'll see the third wave is that mid-range, and then by the time you get to calling, you're not going to know what's going to come, because now you've had those waves over the past 30 days, and that's where the fun begins. That's what I'm excited for, because you, like you said, Blake, you have all this data, it's going to be up and down, and then boom, what's going to happen at the calling?
Boom, kingdoms. Boom.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
a huge
kingdom
that's even
for
more
Orlando,
insane.
but it won't be for Vegas.
Vegas will be the only Monarch national or Monarch calling.
Yes. Yep, it will be.
Texas, Cincinnati, Orlando,
which is
Kingdom.
wild,
in those
because
in Dallas and Cincinnati, being that they're sealed events, is a whole nother thing that we can't even talk about or speculate on, because we don't even know what the cards and kingdoms are going to look like, and they're supposed to be the best sealed set yet. So you can't even predict it. The big CC event is going to be the Vegas, and what's going to happen. And then by the time, I mean, what, you only have 2 months with not much data probably going into Orlando. And now you have do I get scared to use this new hero? Are they good enough? Do I stay with it's going to be amazing. I'm so happy with the season we have ahead of us.
I mean, Nationals is going to really be like the Wild West. And that could be one of the first times we ever see that super secret tech happen, because we will have kingdoms, but I think that because they're sealed, because the two callings in between are sealed, like when Kingdoms first comes out, because we have two sealed events, there's no incentive to play something spicy or to be out there like giving away your tech from Kingdoms. So there's a chance that Orlando could be the first time where we have that big splash deck where people go, this is the best deck in the format, or this is the best deck in the format. And then all of a sudden this deck comes kind of flying under the radar and just appears out of nowhere, and people go, "Oh my god, this deck is insane."
That's when I bring Kano, attack heavy, like
All attack
super
Kano.
super heavy attacks, only running like 30 wizard things, and just hope everybody, your first 4 or 5 rounds are bringing all null rune, and they just can't block with equipment.
And then next thing you know, you just still finish them off with Forked Lightning.
You're correct.
Yeah. They're just like,
That's
oh
the
my
dream.
God, what just happened to me? Or first turn, you stir fork them, so they're hesitant to attack you because they want to hold all their blues. And then they're
Yep.
like, and then you come in and conquer them the next turn. They're like, what the? Oh my God, what is happening right now? And they're just panicking
E-Strike for
across the
5
table.
with Go Again in Command and Conquer. Thank you.
I mean, that sounds like a Sasha deck, right?
I mean, that's what Sasha did with it. It's just went wild.
Yeah, I think it could work. I mean, honestly, it could, because you can't not bring a lot of null rune. Because even if you have 30 cards in there that do null rune damage, that just ruins you. So you still have to bring 3 pieces of null rune. You can't go with 2.
You just need a tier 0 pilot like Sasha, right? That's like the classic example of like a deck being over piloted. Is it's like, hey, is this deck good? It's like, maybe, I don't know. It's like, is this deck good with this pilot? It's like, oh my God, it's the best deck in the format. Like, it's amazing how pilots can do that. And I think that Fab, that's one of my favorite things about Fab, is you can have really bad games with a deck, or have a situation that you're put in a corner where you're like, I've been dealt terrible hands, I've drawn horribly, but somehow I'm in this game and I'm not sure how. And then at some point, the deck kind of works itself out because you've pitched correctly and maintained your hand correctly and just kept the life totals even enough. And then eventually the deck works itself out. Like the RNG kind of levels for you.
Yep.
The negative RNG.
3-4 hands.
Yeah. I think that's why this game specifically is the best sealed game I've ever played. I notoriously, everybody who knows me knows, I hate sealed. Hate it. But in this game, I really enjoy it because I think it shows the best pilots. It proves that, and sometimes you do get RNG'd out of it. When you're opening packs, you get 0 Majestics. You have a really weird pool. But I think even then, sometimes you'll kind of fight your way to like a 2-2 in a 4-round event that maybe somebody else just 0-4s in a heartbeat.
I agree. Yep. That's a good spot to end this week, I think.
55 minutes, so we're good.
Yeah. I
Just
agree.
A beautiful nod to LSS. You have done. We love you.
Beautiful nod. We are so effing pumped. It's ridiculous.
Nothing but positivity here. Nothing but good vibes and positivity this week. I don't know what happened. This is a weird podcast.
I'm ready to go on my Jacob Pearson 8-hour-a-day grind. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready. I'm ready to grind it out.
Yeah, dude, I'm down for Monday. Just make it a thing. Play date.
No, I'm got the day off.
It'd be down
Good old America.
Lifting weights.
Not only is it July 5th,
looking at cards.
Just
get that day off.
Theme song all day.
Maybe a little Eye of the Tiger.
I'm just like punching a punching bag. It's like scar for a scar into Seek Horizon. People are like, what is wrong with this guy?
Take us home, Dane.
Everybody, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you all. As always, be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so that you get alerts when we go live, when we post new videos, when our podcast comes out. Also, be sure to check out our podcast if you like just listening or you are going to be road tripping and want to have that on audio. We've got a little list in the video. But, I mean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, all these places. Like, we're basically everywhere podcasts are. So check that out as well. And be sure to comment what you thought about our podcast. Participate in the live stream, comment on our videos. We love seeing participation. And I've been seeing a ton more of just completely unrelated to us, not needing input from us, conversation happening in the comments, which is super cool to see. Really happy that we've got a following of people that care enough to answer people's questions and stuff like that, which is super nice and motivating to let us know that we're kind of on the right path for putting out stuff that's attracting good people like yourself. So keep listening. Love the support, and be sure to join us next time. Talk to you soon. Peace.
See you.